What's up, friends? Welcome back to my channel. There is no little intro today because I'm here to school you, so we don't have time for all that. We're just gonna get straight into today's video. Before I actually applied my form to my nail, I made sure to pinch the end, and then once I feel my form is secure, I will pinch the end even more so that it is super duper pointy because we are doing stiletto full length, okay? So before I actually get into sculpting the base, I'm showing you how I pick up the bead that I need, and this is all in real time. So I start by dipping my brush in the monomer, making sure it's completely saturated, and I tap it very lightly against the rim of my dish to get rid of any excess liquid. Sometimes I won't even tap it at all because I just want a really large bead. After that, I will dip it to my acrylic about 3 times to pick up the largest bead that I can. And sculpting is really all about understanding bead control and consistency. So for example, if you wanted to pick up a small bead, you would saturate your brush in monomer, tap off most of the excess liquid, and go into your acrylic. But for larger beads, you're going to want to tap off only some of the liquid and go into your acrylic, tapping as many times as you like to reach the bead size you're looking for. And if you're just starting out with acrylic, I would highly recommend you practice your bead consistency and control on a practice sheet so you can really understand the acrylic on its own before you go ahead and apply your techniques to a form. And it took me a while to really grasp my own technique for sculpting, and to this day I'm still learning how to do better on my next set. So I was able to just be more confident in sculpting because of all the practice I've done and I'm still doing. My personal key to sculpting a long base is letting that acrylic polymerize before I set it down, and I kid you not, this really changed the game for me once I started doing this. So I waited about 10 seconds for it to polymerize, and as you saw, I was not chasing the bead and I was not running down the sides of the form. And doing this gives you so much more control of your shape and length. So I'm patting and pulling the acrylic down the form, being sure to wipe my brush if I notice it's sticking to the acrylic, and even cleaning it in monomer if I feel it's necessary. This is another thing that I feel is learned through experience because every brand or even color of acrylic works differently. Some like to be worked with a wet brush and some with a dry brush, so once you understand those properties, you'll find your acrylic a lot easier to work with. So the great thing about sculpting a stiletto nail this long is that you're just following the shape of the form, and as I pull the acrylic down the nail, I'm using the body of my brush to keep the sidewall straight. I would say most of the sculpting process involves the body of the brush. Another thing I like to do to keep my sidewall straight is use the tip of my brush and glide it against the acrylic. And I'm not sure if you can tell, but these forms actually have red lines that indicate where your acrylic should be at different lengths and along the sidewalls, which is super helpful. And as I come to the tip of the nail, it does get a bit more difficult, but I'm using smaller and drier beads so I can bring it to a nice point. To add a bit of strength to my base so it doesn't break when I file it, I'm just adding more acrylic about halfway down my nail bed. I don't bring it to my cuticle area because I want to make sure I don't build my color up too high and also make sure I can get a flush application there. In the past, I have made the mistake of not bringing my acrylic far enough down my nail bed or just making it too thin and my base would break off. So just use your best judgment and make sure you have enough strength so you can file them safely afterwards. But it's definitely okay if it breaks because you can just build a new base and get even more practice. So here we go, a second time. I'm showing you how I picked up my bead, waited a few seconds for it to polymerize, and then I'm setting it down right at the tip of my nail. This bead was a bit larger and wetter than my previous one, so I did have to chase the sides and push them up towards the center of my form to correct that. But again, I'm using the body of my brush to straighten those side walls and pull the acrylic down the form. I was really glad this bead was big enough to cover the entire form because it was a much smoother process than my index finger. One thing that I wanted to mention before we get into filing is that my clear bases are never perfect, and this was actually my first time doing full length nails, so it was a huge challenge for me. But this is just our base, and it doesn't reflect how our finished product will look. It's just gonna guide us and act as a tip while we apply our acrylic on top. So now we're removing the forms, and the key to removing the forms is just pinching underneath as much as you can so that it will release from the form, and then you can just pull them off. I've definitely broken my forms during this process, so you just want to be extra careful when you're pulling them off, and you know, don't be too rough. But look at this stem. Ooh, nice. Okay, so now we're going to, actually I'm just going to show you what they look like. So they're totally not perfect, right? Like this is just a hot mess, but we're going to fix that. So I'm going to take some nail clippers, and these are straight nail clippers, and these are really, really important for this process so that you can get a nice straight line. So I'm just going to clip off the overhanging acrylic with these clippers on both sides, and I'm just going to do that on all the nails that I see have some overhanging acrylic, and then we're going to file it up. once I'm done clipping, I'm gonna take this hand file from a cart, and this is, I believe this is a 180 grit, or it could be 180, but it'll be linked down below. But I'm taking this and I'm filing up underneath so that it's nice and straight, and I usually start by filing underneath to correct the sidewalls first, and then I will fix it from a different view that you will see here. So now I'm turning my hand towards me and I'm filing up the sidewalls. I'm filing this the same way I would if I had applied my acrylic on top of this and I was doing like the finish filing. So it's basically the same concept. Honestly, you can think of your clear sculpted base as your tip. So it's like you're making your own tip. It's like totally DIY with your nails. So tips have the same effect. You know, you file them up, you cut them to whatever shape you want, and then you apply your acrylic. We're basically doing the same thing with our clear sculpted base. We're gonna apply the acrylic and then we're gonna shape it up, and then we can go in and apply our actual design. So now that we're coming towards the end of the video, I just wanted to say I hope this helped you guys out with sculpting. Trust me, it was never this good for me in the beginning. I used to struggle. I would chase the acrylic and it would be so runny, and my nails were uneven and they were too chunky, and it was just a hot mess. But I'm a lot more confident now, and you know, that's just what happens when you practice and you learn. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm double posting this week, so on Thursday you're going to see what design I did on top of this. Leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you on Thursday. Bye-bye!